Amid the lush foliage of the Lazarus Sanctuary, Dr. Lena Caldwell stood tall, her keen eyes scanning the verdant landscape. Her dark hair, pulled back into a practical ponytail, swayed gently in the breeze. At her side, Dr. Sofia Ramirez, a nurturing soul with wavy brown hair, meticulously jotted notes in her weathered journal. Maya Chen, the energetic junior researcher, darted between them, her expressive eyes alight with curiosity. The sanctuary teemed with life, a symphony of resurrected species brought back from the brink of extinction. The air hummed with the steady thrum of insects and the distant calls of birds, a testament to the team's dedication to preserving the delicate balance of this ecosystem. Lena's gaze lingered on a group of red-crowned cranes, their elegant forms gliding through the marshlands. They danced, a mesmerizing display of courtship, their crimson foreheads gleaming in the sunlight. But something was amiss. Their movements were erratic, their calls discordant. Her brow furrowed as she whispered, "That's not right." Sophia looked up from her notes, her kind eyes filled with concern. "What is it, Lena?" Maya paused, her vibrant energy momentarily quelled. Lena's voice took on a firmer tone as she shared her observations, her sharp instincts ignited. "Their behavior patterns are off. These cranes aren't just dancing out of mating season. They're exhibiting signs of distress." Sophia studied the birds, her nurturing nature rising to the surface. "I've noticed similar irregularities in the primate populations. Their social structures seem disrupted." Maya's eyes widened, her enthusiasm replaced with a burgeoning sense of unease. "Do you think it's connected to the recent environmental shifts?" Lena's mind raced, her insatiable curiosity driving her to unravel this mystery. "It's possible, but I can't be sure without further investigation." She turned to her colleagues, her determination evident in her steady gaze. "We need to delve deeper into this. There's more at stake than just the sanctuary. The implications for global ecosystems could be devastating." As Lena's words hung in the air, the cranes' discordant calls echoed ominously through the sanctuary, a harbinger of the challenges that lay ahead. The team exchanged resolute nods, their unwavering dedication to their mission clear in their expressions. Together, they would uncover the truth and protect the fragile balance of life within the Lazarus Sanctuary. But Lena couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the answers they sought would force her to confront a past she had long tried to leave behind. As she watched the red-crowned cranes, their once graceful dance now a disjointed spectacle, she steeled herself for the journey ahead, her resolve to protect the sanctuary stronger than ever. With the cacophony of the disjointed crane dance still echoing in their ears, Lena led Sophia and Maya to the sanctuary's command center. The sleek, modern building stood in stark contrast to the wild beauty surrounding it, a testament to the delicate balance between technology and nature. As they entered the dimly lit room, Lena's eyes scanned the wall of monitors displaying real-time data from the various species within the sanctuary. Her brow furrowed as she pointed to the screens, revealing the stark evidence of the animals' aberrant behaviors. "Look at these patterns," she said, her voice laced with concern. "Something is disrupting their normal routines and social structures." Maya leaned in, her expressive eyes scanning the data. "It's not just the cranes, is it?" Sophia's gentle tone cut through the tension. "We're in this together, Lena. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out." Lena took a deep breath, her resolve strengthened by her team's unwavering support. She outlined a plan to collect more data, conduct interviews with other sanctuary staff, and analyze the environmental factors that could be contributing to the problem. As they strategized, the once lively command center took on a somber air. The urgency of their mission weighed heavily on them, but their determination never wavered. They knew that the delicate balance of the ecosystem hung in the balance, and they were the ones tasked with preserving it. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Lena confessed her fears about the potential consequences of their discovery. "If we don't find answers soon, the repercussions could be catastrophic, not just for the sanctuary, but for the entire planet." Maya placed a reassuring hand on Lena's shoulder. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect the sanctuary. You can count on us." As they finalized their plan of action, Lena's mind drifted to her former colleague, Dr. Evan Thompson. His expertise in genetics and ethical concerns about the Lazarus Project made him an invaluable resource. But would he be willing to help after all this time? With a deep breath, Lena reached for her phone and began drafting a message to Evan. She knew that their investigation would require every ounce of knowledge and skill they could muster, and Evan's unique perspective could be the key to unlocking the mysteries that plagued the sanctuary. As she hit send, Lena couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but she was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. In the quiet command center, the hum of the computers seemed to grow louder, a constant reminder of the ticking clock and the race against time to save the sanctuary. With her team by her side and the hope of Evan's assistance, Lena refocused her efforts, her resolve stronger than ever. Together, they would unravel the truth and protect the fragile balance of life within the Lazarus Sanctuary, come what may. In the following days, Lena, Sophia, and Maya worked tirelessly to gather data and interview sanctuary staff. Their discoveries only deepened the mystery, and the urgency of their mission grew with each passing hour. Meanwhile, Lena waited anxiously for a response from Evan. Each time her phone buzzed, her heart raced, only to be met with disappointment when she saw it was another email or message unrelated to her inquiry. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Evan's response arrived. His words were measured, reflective, and filled with caution. He agreed to meet with Lena and discuss their suspicions, but he made it clear that his involvement would come at a price. With a mixture of relief and apprehension, Lena arranged a meeting at a nearby cafe. The location was neutral, but the tension between them would be palpable. As she prepared to face her former colleague, she couldn't help but wonder if their reunion would be the key to solving the mystery, or the catalyst that would shatter the fragile balance of the Lazarus Sanctuary once and for all. As Lena approached the cafe, her heart raced. The familiar sight of Evan's tousled blonde hair and piercing blue eyes sent a jolt of nostalgia through her, but she quickly pushed the sentiment aside. There was too much at stake to let emotions cloud her judgment. As they sat down at a secluded table, Evan's eyes met hers, and she could see the turmoil within. He spoke with his usual thoughtful deliberation, weighing each word carefully. "Lena, I can't help but wonder if your involvement in the Lazarus Project is wise. The ethical implications are enormous, and I fear that the consequences could be devastating." Lena's tone was firm but understanding. "I know your concerns, Evan, and I respect them. But the sanctuary is in trouble, and I need your help to save it." Evan hesitated, his inner conflict evident. But as Lena shared the details of their findings and the urgency of their mission, she could see his resolve waver. Finally, with a heavy sigh, he agreed to join their investigation. "I'll help you, Lena," he said, his voice filled with determination. "But we must tread carefully. The truth we uncover could change everything." As they left the cafe and ventured back into the wild beauty of the Lazarus Sanctuary, Lena couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope. With Evan's expertise and unwavering moral compass, they would unravel the mystery and protect the sanctuary from the forces that threatened to destroy it. But as they delved deeper into the investigation, they would soon discover that the truth was far more complex and dangerous than they ever could have imagined. And the consequences of their actions would reverberate far beyond the borders of the Lazarus Sanctuary, shaking the very foundations of the world they knew. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the Lazarus Sanctuary, as Lena, Sophie, Maya, and Evan huddled around the makeshift lab table. The air was thick with anticipation, the silence broken only by the hum of the portable centrifuge and the occasional rustle of leaves as a resurrected creature scurried past. Lena's eyes were glued to the microscope, her brow furrowed in concentration. The advanced genetic testing techniques they were learning felt like a foreign language, but she was determined to master them. Beside her, Sophie and Maya were equally engrossed, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of their laptops as they analyzed data and cross-referenced samples. As they worked, Evan moved between them, offering guidance and gentle encouragement. Despite his initial reluctance to join the investigation, he seemed to have found a renewed sense of purpose in teaching them these critical skills. Lena's thoughts drifted back to their earlier conversation, when she had approached Evan at the cafe on the outskirts of the sanctuary. His hesitation had been palpable, but as she shared her suspicions and the mounting evidence of genetic manipulation, she could see the old fire in his eyes, the passion for truth that had once driven him. "I've been doing some research of my own," Evan had confided, leaning in close. "There are rumors of a rogue scientist, someone who's been experimenting with the resurrected species, pushing the boundaries of what's ethically acceptable." Lena had felt a chill run down her spine, her worst fears confirmed. "We have to find out who it is and stop them before it's too late." Now, as they continued their training, Lena couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The stakes were higher than ever, and the danger they faced was very real. But she refused to let fear deter her. She would do whatever it took to protect the sanctuary and the delicate balance of life within its borders. As the night wore on, the group's determination never wavered. They pushed themselves to the brink, honing their skills and preparing for the challenges ahead. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would stand together, united in their quest for truth and justice. And as the first rays of dawn broke through the canopy, casting a golden light over the Lazarus sanctuary, Lena knew that they were ready. Together, they would uncover the secrets hidden within the heart of the sanctuary and expose the forces that threatened to destroy it. But little did they know, the truth they sought would be far more complex and devastating than they ever could have imagined. And the choices they would be forced to make would test the limits of their courage, their loyalty, and their very humanity. For in the dark world of genetic manipulation and corporate greed, there were no easy answers, no clear lines between right and wrong, and the road to redemption would be fraught with danger, sacrifice, and betrayal. But Lena was undeterred. She would stop at nothing to protect the sanctuary and the creatures within it, even if it meant risking everything she held dear. And as she gazed out at the awakening world, she knew that she would not face this battle alone. For she had Sophie, Maya, and Even by her side, united in their quest for truth and justice. And together, they would fight to preserve the delicate balance of the Lazarus sanctuary, and the hope it represented for a brighter, more harmonious future. But the road ahead would be long and treacherous, and the forces arrayed against them would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. And as the first rays of dawn gave way to the full light of day, Lena and her team steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead, determined to uncover the truth and expose the darkness that lurked within the heart of the Lazarus sanctuary. For they knew that the fate of the sanctuary, and perhaps the world itself, hung in the balance. And they would not rest until justice was served, and the delicate balance of life was restored. But the road ahead would be fraught with danger, and the choices they would be forced to make would test the limits of their courage, their loyalty, and their very humanity. And as they ventured deeper into the heart of the sanctuary, they would soon discover that the truth was far more complex and devastating than they ever could have imagined. For in the dark world of genetic manipulation and corporate greed, there were no easy answers, no clear lines between right and wrong, and the road to redemption would be paved with sacrifice, betrayal, and heartache. But Lena was undeterred. She would stop at nothing to protect the sanctuary and the creatures within it, even if it meant risking everything she held dear. And as she gazed out at the awakening world, she knew that she would not face this battle alone. For she had Sophie, Maya, and Evan by her side, united in their quest for truth and justice. And together, they would fight to preserve the delicate balance of the Lazarus sanctuary, and the hope it represented for a brighter, more harmonious future. But the road ahead would be long and treacherous, and the forces arrayed against them would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. And as the first rays of dawn gave way to the full light of day, Lena and her team steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead, determined to uncover the truth and expose the darkness that lurked within the heart of the Lazarus sanctuary. For they knew that the fate of the sanctuary, and perhaps the world itself, hung in the balance. And they would not rest until justice was served, and the delicate balance of life was restored. But the road ahead would be fraught with danger, and the choices they would be forced to make would test the limits of their courage, their loyalty, and their very humanity. And as they ventured deeper into the heart of the sanctuary, they would soon discover that the truth was far more complex and devastating than they ever could have imagined. For in the dark world of genetic manipulation and corporate greed, there were no easy answers, no clear lines between right and wrong. And the Lazarus Sanctuary buzzed with life, a symphony of resurrected species thriving in their reclaimed habitat. Dr. Lena Caldwell, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, stood at the edge of the research station, her keen eyes scanning the landscape. Beside her, Dr. Sophia Ramirez and Maya Chen were huddled over a portable lab, analyzing samples with focused determination. Dr. Evan Thompson, his sandy blonde hair tousled, watched the scene unfold with a mixture of admiration and trepidation. As Lena turned to face her team, her voice carried the clarity and precision of a true leader. "We've come too far to let this go. The anomalies we've observed demand answers. We must keep investigating, despite the resistance." Sophia glanced up, her brow furrowed. "But what about Mendoza and Foster? They're doing everything in their power to block our progress." Lena's expression hardened, but her tone remained measured. "I'll handle them. We need to stay focused on our mission." Her words were firm, but her eyes betrayed the weight of her responsibility. As the day wore on, Lena found herself in a tense meeting with Victoria Mendoza and Alan Foster. The corporate executives, dressed in sleek suits that seemed out of place amidst the wild beauty of the sanctuary, eyed her with thinly veiled hostility. Lena met their gaze with unwavering resolve, her diplomatic skills on full display as she navigated their resistance. "I understand your concerns," she began, "but we cannot ignore the potential implications of these findings. The delicate balance of this ecosystem is at stake." Mendoza's lips curled into a dismissive smile. "Dr. Caldwell, your dedication is commendable, but I assure you, there's nothing to worry about. Our corporation has invested heavily in this project, and we've taken every precaution to ensure its success." Lena's mind raced, searching for a way to persuade them. She knew that if they didn't act soon, the consequences could be catastrophic. As the meeting drew to a close, Lena felt a growing sense of unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play than Mendoza and Foster were letting on. With a renewed sense of determination, Lena decided it was time to bring in an unlikely ally. She reached out to Milo Aldrich, a renegade hacker known only as Scruff. His unkempt appearance and sarcastic demeanor belied his exceptional skills, and Lena knew that if anyone could uncover the truth, it was him. Scruff arrived at the research station, his casual attire and scruffy appearance a stark contrast to the dedicated scientists working tirelessly around him. He eyed Lena with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You said you needed my help with something big," he said, his voice laced with dry humor. Lena met his gaze, her tone serious. "I need you to access confidential information about the corporation's involvement in genetic manipulation. There's more going on here than they're letting on, and I need proof." Scruff raised an eyebrow, impressed by her audacity. "All right, Doc. You've got yourself a deal." As Scruff delved into the corporate network, the team continued their research, each new discovery adding to the mounting tension. They worked tirelessly, driven by their shared purpose and the knowledge that the fate of the Lazarus Sanctuary hung in the balance. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure began to take its toll. Lena found herself lying awake at night, haunted by the thought of what they might uncover. Her dreams were plagued by images of twisted creatures and a world thrown out of balance. But she couldn't afford to give in to her fears, not when so much was at stake. Finally, the breakthrough they had been waiting for arrived. Scruff emerged from his makeshift workspace, his face pale and drawn. "I've found something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You were right, Lena. They've been manipulating the genetics of these creatures, and it's not just for the sanctuary. It's part of a much larger global conspiracy." As the weight of his words sank in, Lena felt a cold knot of dread form in the pit of her stomach. They were no longer just fighting for the sanctuary. They were up against a force that threatened the very fabric of life on Earth. But she knew that they couldn't back down now. They had come too far, and there was too much at stake. With renewed determination, Lena gathered her team, her voice steady and resolute. "We have our proof. Now it's time to expose the truth and bring those responsible to justice." As they prepared to face the challenges ahead, Lena couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the resilience of her team. They had been pushed to their limits, forced to confront their darkest fears, and yet they remained united in their determination to protect the sanctuary and the world beyond. Together, they would fight to expose the darkness that lurked within the heart of the Lazarus sanctuary, and in doing so, restore the delicate balance of life that had been so cruelly disrupted. For they knew that the fate of the sanctuary, and perhaps the world itself, hung in the balance. And they would not rest until justice was served, and the truth was finally revealed. The team pressed deeper into the Lazarus sanctuary, the once thriving ecosystem now marred by the unnatural. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she scanned the horizon, her keen eyes taking in the eerie sight of mutated creatures that lurked in the shadows. The twisted forms of these resurrected species served as a constant reminder of the delicate balance they were fighting to preserve. Sophie and Maya exchanged worried glances, their voices hushed as they communicated in hurried whispers. Evan's brow furrowed, his gaze fixed on the distorted landscape before them. Lena could sense the turmoil within him, the weight of his own past mistakes gnawing at his conscience. As they ventured further, the team stumbled upon a hidden laboratory nestled within the heart of the sanctuary. The air grew thick with the scent of antiseptic, and the hum of advanced machinery echoed through the sterile halls. Lena's pulse quickened as she pieced together the horrifying truth. Illegal genetic experimentation, conducted by none other than Dr. Samuel Krieger, was responsible for the grotesque mutations they had encountered. Lena's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of anger and determination. How could someone with such a brilliant scientific mind be capable of such heinous acts? She clenched her fists, her nails biting into her palms as she fought to maintain her composure. She knew that she had to remain focused, to keep her emotions in check, if they were to uncover the full extent of Krieger's manipulations and bring him to justice. Evan's voice broke through her inner turmoil, his tone grave and resolute. "We need to gather as much evidence as possible before we alert the authorities. If we're going to take Krieger down, we need to make sure our case is airtight." Lena nodded, her gaze steely as she surveyed the room. "Agreed. We split up and searched the lab. Be thorough, but be quick. We don't know how much time we have before Krieger realizes we've discovered his secret." As the team dispersed to scour the lab, Lena couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at her. The deeper they delved into the sanctuary, the more it felt as though they were walking into a trap. Her senses were on high alert, her every instinct screaming for her to retreat. But she knew that they couldn't turn back now, not when they were so close to uncovering the truth. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor, and Lena's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened in horror as she recognized the tall, imposing figure of Harrison Walker, his cold gaze fixed upon her with a chilling intensity. Beside him stood Nathan Reed, his muscular form poised for action as he surveyed the room with a practiced eye. Lena's blood ran cold as the realization set in. They had been betrayed. "Dr. Caldwell," Walker's voice dripped with false sincerity, "I'm afraid I can't let you continue your little investigation. You see, some secrets are better left undiscovered." Lena's mind raced, her thoughts a blur as she weighed their options. They were outnumbered and outgunned, with no escape in sight. But she refused to give up without a fight, to let Krieger's atrocities go unpunished. With a fierce determination, she turned to her team, her voice steady and resolute. "We have to get out of here now. Whatever it takes, we have to expose the truth and bring Krieger to justice." As the team prepared to make their stand, Lena couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Despite the insurmountable odds, they remained united in their pursuit of justice, their commitment to protecting the sanctuary unwavering. Together, they would fight to expose the darkness that lurked within the heart of the Lazarus sanctuary, and in doing so, restore the delicate balance of life that had been so cruelly disrupted. For they knew that the fate of the sanctuary, and perhaps the world itself, hung in the balance. And they would not rest until justice was served, and the truth was finally revealed. The biting cold of the sanctuary's underground tunnels seeped into Lena's bones as she crouched behind a moss-covered boulder, her heart pounding in her chest. The distant echo of footsteps grew louder, and she clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. Sophie was out there somewhere, held captive by the very man they had trusted to protect them. Lena's mind raced with the ramifications of Sophie's capture. The mission to expose Krieger's genetic manipulations hung in the balance, teetering on the precipice of failure. But it was not just the fate of the sanctuary that weighed on her shoulders. It was the thought of her dear friend, her confidant, being at the mercy of their enemies. A voice whispered in the recesses of her mind, urging her to press on, to leave Sophie behind for the sake of the greater good. But Lena's resolve was unyielding. She would not abandon her friend, not when Sophie had stood by her side through every challenge, every setback. As the footsteps grew closer, Lena steeled herself, her eyes narrowing with determination. She would not let fear dictate her actions. She would find a way to rescue Sophie, to bring Krieger's twisted machinations to light. With a deep breath, she signaled to Maya and Evan, who nodded in silent understanding. Together, they had faced insurmountable odds before, and they would do so again. They would stop at nothing to save Sophie and protect the sanctuary they had sworn to defend. Lena's pulse quickened as she sprang into action, her movements swift and precise. She darted from the cover of the boulder, her eyes locked on the shadowy figure of Nathan Reed, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the dim glow of the tunnel's bioluminescent flora. "Nate!" she called out, her voice steady and commanding. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." There was a moment of silence, the air heavy with tension, before Nathan's deep voice resonated through the tunnel. "Dr. Caldwell, I'm afraid that's not possible. You've crossed a line, and I can't let you jeopardize the sanctuary any further." Lena's jaw clenched as she advanced, her eyes never leaving Nathan's form. "You don't understand, Nate. Krieger's experiments are putting the entire ecosystem at risk. We can't let him continue." Nathan hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, Lena thought she saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by steely resolve, his stance unwavering. "I'm sorry, Dr. Caldwell. I can't let you interfere." As the confrontation escalated, Lena's thoughts raced, her mind a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. She knew that time was running out, that every second brought them closer to discovery, to the possibility of their secret hideout being exposed. But she refused to back down, to let fear dictate her actions. She would find a way to rescue Sophie, to bring Krieger's twisted machinations to light. She would not let the sanctuary, the delicate balance of life that she had dedicated her life to preserving, be destroyed by the very people who were supposed to protect it. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, her fingers closing around the cold steel of Nathan's wrist. She felt the resistance, the strength that belied his calm demeanor, but she held firm, her eyes locked on his. "Nate, please," she implored, her voice barely a whisper. "You have to trust me. You have to help us." For a moment, it seemed as though Nathan might relent, his gaze softening ever so slightly. But then the sound of distant footsteps shattered the silence, and the illusion was broken. With a resigned sigh, Nathan shook his head, his expression resolute. "I'm sorry, Lena. I can't." And with that, he pulled away, disappearing into the shadows of the tunnel, leaving Lena and her team to face the daunting task that lay before them. As they raced through the winding passages of the sanctuary, Lena's thoughts were a tumultuous storm, a maelstrom of fear and determination. She knew that their rescue attempt had come at a great cost, that their secret hideout was now in grave danger. But she refused to let doubt cloud her judgment, to let the weight of their predicament crush her spirit. She would find a way to save Sophie, to expose Krieger's atrocities and restore the balance of the sanctuary. With Maya and Evan at her side, she forged onward, her resolve unyielding, her heart filled with the fierce determination that had carried her through countless trials and tribulations. Together, they would face the challenges that lay ahead, their unwavering commitment to their cause, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As they approached their hideout, the tension in the air was palpable, the sense of impending doom a heavy burden on their shoulders. They knew that they had to act quickly, to devise a plan that would not only rescue Sophie, but also protect the sanctuary from the sinister forces that threatened to destroy it. With bated breath, they huddled together, their voices hushed as they discussed their options, their minds racing with the urgency of their mission. They knew that the stakes were higher than ever, that the fate of the sanctuary, and perhaps the world itself, hung in the balance. But they refused to be deterred, to let fear dictate their actions. They were a team, united in their pursuit of justice, their commitment to preserving the delicate balance of life that had been so cruelly disrupted. And as they prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, Lena felt a renewed sense of purpose, a fierce determination that surged through her veins, fueling her every move. Together, they would fight to expose the truth, to bring Krieger to justice, and to restore the sanctuary to its rightful. In the dimly lit hideout, the air thick with tension, Dr. Lena Caldwell slumped forward, cradling her head in her hands. Her dark hair cascaded around her face, obscuring the anguish etched upon it. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon her shoulders, threatening to crush her resolve. Dr. Evan Thompson approached cautiously, his piercing blue eyes filled with concern. He knelt beside her, gently placing a hand on her trembling shoulder. "Lena, we can't lose hope now. We've come too far to give up." Lena's eyes, clouded with self-doubt, met his gaze. "But Sophie, I never meant for this to happen. It's my fault she's been captured." Her voice cracked, betraying the turmoil within. Evan's expression softened as he squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. "We all knew the risks when we embarked on this mission. We're fighting for something much bigger than ourselves, and we can't let fear hold us back." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "Remember when we first discovered the Lazarus Sanctuary, and we marveled at the beauty of the resurrected species? We knew then that we had a responsibility to protect them, to preserve the delicate balance of the ecosystem. That's what brought us together, and that's what will see us through this." As Evan's words resonated within her, Lena's eyes began to clear, the fog of despair slowly lifting. She straightened her posture, her determination rekindling like an ember in the wind. "You're right, Evan. We can't afford to lose sight of our purpose." Just then, the heavy silence was shattered by the sound of footsteps approaching the hideout. Lena and Evan exchanged worried glances, their hearts pounding in unison. With bated breath, they watched as the door creaked open, revealing the imposing figure of Nathan Reed. His expression was grave, but there was a spark of hope in his piercing blue eyes. "I have something to tell you," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been working against Harrison Walker and the corporation all along. I was the one who tipped off Scruff about their illegal genetic experiments, and I've been feeding you information to help expose their crimes." Lena's eyes widened in disbelief as she processed his revelation. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Nathan hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I couldn't risk being discovered. But now, with Sophie captured and the sanctuary in peril, I can't stay silent any longer." A sense of renewed hope washed over the group as they realized the unexpected alliance that had formed. Together, they stood a chance against the corrupt forces threatening the sanctuary and the world as they knew it. As they prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, Lena felt a surge of determination coursing through her veins. They would fight to expose the truth, to bring Krieger to justice, and to restore the sanctuary to its rightful balance. No matter the cost, they would not be deterred. Lena's heart raced as she double-checked the encrypted communication device, ensuring the message was sent to Scruff. The team had gathered in the dimly lit safe house, their faces illuminated by the flickering screen of the holographic projector. Maya's fingers danced over the virtual keyboard, inputting the final details of their plan. Sophie, although still recovering, offered her expertise from a nearby makeshift bed. Evan stood beside Lena, his steady presence a comforting reminder of their shared purpose. Lena's thoughts swirled with the weight of their impending mission. She couldn't help but replay the events that led them to this moment. The mysterious behavior of the resurrected species, the discovery of illegal genetic experiments, and the betrayal of Harrison Walker. But amidst the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged, Nathan Reed. "All right, everyone," Lena began, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "We've got one shot at this. Our goal is to infiltrate the corporate headquarters, access the mainframe, and expose the truth about Walker's crimes." As Maya and Sophie went over the technical aspects of the infiltration, Lena couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in her stomach. She glanced at Evan, who offered a reassuring nod. In that brief exchange, she found the strength to push forward. The following evening, the team stood outside the imposing glass facade of the corporate headquarters. Dressed in stolen security uniforms, they blended seamlessly into the night shift. Nathan, now a fully fledged member of their team, led the way. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors, the tension palpable as they approached the mainframe room. Lena's palms grew slick with sweat as she swiped her stolen keycard, praying it wouldn't trigger an alarm. The door hissed open, revealing a sterile white room filled with humming servers. Maya and Sophie sprang into action, their hands moving deftly over the console. Lena's gaze darted between the screens displaying encrypted code and the entrance, expecting security to burst in at any moment. Evan stood by her side, his eyes scanning the room with the intensity of a seasoned predator. He whispered, "Lena, we're almost there. We can do this." Maya's triumphant cry echoed through the room as she successfully uploaded the incriminating evidence to Scruff's secure server. The team shared a moment of relief, but they knew their mission wasn't over yet. They had to ensure the information reached the public domain. As they retreated from the mainframe room, Lena felt a surge of adrenaline and determination. They were so close to exposing the truth and bringing justice to the Lazarus Sanctuary. But as they rounded the corner, they found themselves face to face with Harrison Walker, his icy blue eyes filled with fury. "Well, well, Dr. Caldwell," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "I must admit, I'm impressed by your tenacity. But unfortunately for you, the game is over." Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she stood her ground, her mind racing to formulate a plan. She locked eyes with Evan, and in that instant, they both knew what had to be done. They would stop at nothing to protect the sanctuary and bring Harrison Walker to justice. The fate of the planet hung in the balance, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.